Before candlelit dinners, before wedding rings, before love songs, something else came first. 200,000 years ago, on the African savanna, a human brain did something extraordinary. It became fixated not on survival, not on the group, but on one specific other person. And the question scientists have spent decades trying to answer is, why? Neuroscientists, anthropologists, and evolutionary biologists have all taken a crack at this question. In 2000, researchers put people who claimed to be deeply in love inside brain scanners. The results were not what anyone expected. Love lit up the brain's reward and craving circuits. The exact same neural pathways that fire for addictive drugs fire for the person you love. That is not exactly what Valentine's Day cards suggest. But it makes evolutionary sense once you go back far enough to find where this all started. Anthropologists have a term for what ancient humans developed. They call it the pair bond. It is not just attraction. It is a sustained, exclusive bond between two individuals that endures over time. Humans are actually unusual among great apes in forming these long-term exclusive bonds. And the reason seems to be that human survival demanded something extra, cooperative pair investment in offspring. Human infants are uniquely helpless for an extraordinarily long time. They need two caregivers, not one. A human infant cannot walk, feed itself, or escape a predator for the first year or more of its life. That means one member of a pair had to protect and provide while the other focused on the infant. When our ancestors began walking upright, the pelvis narrowed, and babies were born more premature than before. This created a survival problem that only a stable pair bond could efficiently solve. And so the brain evolved specific circuits to make pair bonding feel not just good, but irresistible. For key neurochemicals drive the experience of falling and staying in love, and they each do a different job. Dopamine is what makes the early phase of love feel electric. You can't eat, you can't sleep, you can't stop thinking about them. Oxytocin is the bonding hormone. It surges during physical closeness and builds the sense of deep trust. Serotonin actually drops when you fall in love, which is why your brain loops back to that person all day long. And vasopressin is what sustains the bond long after the initial rush fades. It keeps you coming back. But these chemicals didn't appear from nowhere. They were built on ancient mammalian bonding circuits. The oxytocin bonding system is over 80 million years old. It predates humans by an enormous stretch. Prairie voles became famous in neuroscience because they are one of the few rodents that form lifelong pair bonds. Block their vasopressin receptor gene, and they stop pair bonding immediately. They become promiscuous. The difference between lifelong devotion and zero attachment. One gene, one receptor. That means your capacity for romantic love may be, at a fundamental level, a genetic inheritance. So now imagine what it actually looked like. Ancient humans falling in love at a campfire 50,000 years ago. What we know from archaeology is that gift-giving and grooming were the earliest courtship behaviors. At Blombos Cave in South Africa, researchers found ochre pigment beads 75,000 years old, likely courtship gifts. Someone sat in a cave, carefully drilling a hole through a tiny shell to give to a specific other person. That act, making something beautiful to signal preference for one person, is the oldest form of courtship display we have found. Shared labor, hunting, tool-making, foraging together, was also a primary bonding mechanism. The archaeological record is full of behaviors that look unmistakably like courtship signaling. Bone flutes found in Germany, dated to 40,000 years ago, suggest music was already being used to attract attention. Music is one of the most powerful human bonding and courtship signals. It still is today. Body decoration with ochre pigment appears 100,000 years ago, long before any practical use has been identified. The urge to make yourself visually remarkable to a specific audience is as old as the species itself. And here is what makes ancient human love different from just attraction. They began to prefer each other to everyone else. Pair bonding is not just attraction. It is the active choice to return again and again to the same specific individual. Brain imaging shows that long-term bonded partners activate different regions than newly in-love partners. Dopamine rush fades, and if the relationship survives that transition, oxytocin and vasopressin take over. And that is when ancient love stopped being a feeling and became a structure, a way of organizing life around another person. Modern relationship psychology maps exactly onto what neuroscience shows, stage by stage. Anthropologist Helen Fisher called romantic love a primary motivation system. Not an emotion, but a drive, like hunger. Like hunger or thirst, romantic love compels behavior. It is something your brain is built to pursue. This is why rejection in love triggers the same brain circuits as physical pain. Ancient humans who lost a pair bond experienced a genuine neurological crisis. Not just sadness, but withdrawal. Brain scans show that romantic rejection activates the anterior cingulate cortex, the same region that registers physical pain. A broken heart is not a metaphor. It is a neurological event with measurable physical consequences. Ancient peoples had no word for neuroscience, but they built rituals around grief for lost bonds because they felt it in their bodies. They created mourning rituals for heartbreak the same way they created mourning rituals for death. Because losing a pair bond was one of the most destabilizing things that could happen to a person in a small prehistoric group. And yet the same brain that makes heartbreak feel unbearable also drives recovery, because the species needed to try again. The same neurochemical system that creates the agony of loss also, given time, creates the capacity for a new bond. For most of human prehistory, love was not a luxury, it was a survival infrastructure. The pair bond gave our ancestors a reliable source of food, protection, cooperation, and warmth in a deeply hostile world. Two people who consistently chose each other had measurably better survival odds than lone individuals. And the pair that cooperated practically, sharing tasks, dividing labor, bonded more deeply and stayed together longer. Archaeological sites across Africa suggest behavioral modernity, including symbolic and courtship behaviors, began at least 100,000 years ago. Marking your chosen partner with decoration may be as old as the impulse to court them with gifts. Preferential attention, seeking one specific face in a crowd, is one of the clearest behavioral markers of pair bonding. Modern fMRI studies show that seeing your partner's face activates the same reward circuits as receiving an unexpected reward. And ancient humans felt that same involuntary spike, the full-body recognition response, tens of thousands of years before it had a name. And at some point, after the gift, after the music, after the shared labor, the bond became mutual. Not just one person fixating on another, but two nervous systems mutually rewiring around each other. Synchronized heart rates, mirrored breathing, and shared attention are all documented in bonded pairs, human and animal. Pair bond is not just a social arrangement. It is a neural connection that shapes both people at the physiological level. Anthropologists believe early human bands of 20 to 50 people naturally organized into bonded pair units within the larger group. So what does all of this mean for how we understand love today? It means that what you experience as a modern romantic feeling is continuous with something 200,000 years old. Dating app and the shell bead gift are different tools for the same ancient neural system. Every culture, in every era, has developed its own courtship rituals, but the underlying neural machinery is identical. Pair bonding appears in 97% of all documented human societies, the near-universal human pattern. Even the anxieties of modern romance, fear of rejection, obsessive thinking, jealousy, are ancient survival mechanisms in new contexts. Long-term bonded partners literally expand each other's self-concept. The brain begins to model the other person's welfare as its own. Ancient humans built their entire social and survival structure around that bond. It was not separate from life, it was the frame of life. So the next time you feel that specific, ridiculous, overwhelming focus on one particular person, recognize it for what it is. It is 200,000 years of evolution telling you that this one, specific, irreplaceable person matters. The brain that falls in love today is the same brain that drilled a hole through a shell bead in the dark for someone specific 75,000 years ago. Nothing about love is new, and somehow knowing that makes it feel even more real.